Hi everyone, welcome back to part 4 of this open day deep dive presentation about the computer animation course.
And in this section, we'll look at course details and student experience.
Yeah, so we'll initially give you an idea of what you'll study on the course, with a particular focus on the type of projects you'll experience in year 1.
And then we'll look at facilities, we'll look at network opportunities and field trips.
Cool, so let's get on with part 4. What we move on to now is a little bit of a look at what you will study on the course in a little more detail, with a particular focus on year 1 of the course that we'll get onto. This is a slide the uni's put together for us with a sample of our kind of module titles on there to give a sense of what you'll study. What's going to give you a better idea of that, and you can find the list of modules on the website as well. What gives you a better sense of how those break down is this chart, which is the structure of the 3 years. What's of interest here in particular is the character creature word that is popping up. So we've pointing towards what the content of modules are and our emphasis in character and creature work as animators and artists. These 2 modules, for example, are now not called content creation twice for games or film, TV, VFX. This is a character creation project, so you create a character as an artist or an animator and implement it into a game engine. And this one is a creature project for VFX. Yeah. So first year starts off with some introductory stuff and then moves on to this character creature focus. Second year continues this character and creature focus and then starts to open up a little after the first half of the second year to allow students more free form creative controls given back to students from this point on. These are quite directed projects where we're trying to learn lots of fundamental and intermediate and advanced skills. Then into the second half of the second year, we're then opening the course up to allow creative control to come back into the students' hands a little more. And here there's a personal project, which is kind of whatever you want to do, and collab project is whatever you want to lead or get involved with. And then we go into third year then with what we're terming now as a minor project, which is focused around commercials. So 3 quite big chunks of the industry here. We have a project focused on games, project focused on VFX, and here we have a project focused on commercials. In these major projects and personal collab projects, you can do whatever you want, so any other aspects of the industry you can explore in those projects. This one also involves a little collaboration as a mini collaboration. This one we're terming as a minor project. And here, this is pre-production for major projects. Yeah, so drawing and design is always a part of the course. This is a drawing and design module that underpins other stuff. This is visual studies life drawing, which underpins other stuff. So there's always a drawn design pathway element to everything we do. Yeah, we come from that artistic background. That's a fundamental guiding principle of the course. So we spend about 25% of our time in drawing and design. Before projects start, these 2 also have a kind of a drawing design element to them as well. And then we'll spend about 75% of the time in the CG production of that. Okay, so we want to give you a little introduction in particular on what happens in the first year. Yeah, so applicants currently considering offers from us will want to know what's going on next year in particular. So rather than talk to you about that in this boring text-based way, much better if I hand you over to Phil, who's going to go through how that looks as a little showreel that he's put together recently.
So yeah, as I mentioned earlier when we talked about the animation, about how the first year is all about, it's about the first year being a bit more of a fundamentals to the CG world almost, but mainly animation and art are the main things you'll focus on in the first year. But you'll see in terms of the order that we do things here, it's almost a bit of a animation project, then an art project, which is modeling, texturing, and then back to another animation project, then back to another art project. So what you'll get is a little bit of a flavor of how to model, how to navigate through the world of software, which we use, which is Autodesk Maya. So we use it for modeling, we use it for animation. We'll go through the fundamentals of both, how to model, how to keep an eye on topology, how to model things accurately, how to then animate accurately, how to understand the fundamentals of animation. And we kind of almost layer up, as we do bouncing balls. The next animation project we'll do then will be more about human motion, and then after that then it'll be more about character and performance, as you'll see from this clip here. Same with modeling. We start with basics, then we start to layer up and start to push the elements a little bit more. But again, what we expect from students is almost no knowledge of CG. You know, that's one thing I should add in here, that we're not expecting you guys to be savvy in Maya or in any kind of CG 3D software. We take students from the ground up, and we'll take it through step by step, through project, to then by the end of the first year, then having a bit of an understanding of where you might want to focus, where you might want to specialize, whether it's animation or whether it's art, or maybe you're still quite interested in both at this point at the end of the first year. But the second year, then you'll start to select a little bit more and specialize a little bit more in that second year platform.
Yeah, cool. And the other thing, certainly the situation we're all in at the moment, we'd imagine, applicants considering studying with us next year will want to know answers to these kind of questions. With the level of kind of what's happening with studies that's around at the moment, particularly, we'd be hoping that opens up. Going into the winter term next year, that we're not in the situations that we've been in this year. None of us have crystal balls for any of this kind of stuff. So we wanted to show you just how we've been operating during lockdown. We've operated really well. We've operated in a way that's been really successful. We've operated entirely online. We've learned a lot from working remotely and operating online in a really positive way. We have all kinds of sort of remote access to software and hardware. All our online submissions of work have been done by digital Dropboxes. So there's actually been a huge amount of flexibility around that there wasn't for students before. So students have asked us for years about submitting work without coming in to submit work, so that if they can work right up to a deadline from home and then kind of hand it in somewhere. There was never anything that was managed to kind of pull together in a way that was safe enough or anything like that. For the university, and then because of lockdown, then that's made that kind of stuff a necessity. And actually, when you're forced into doing it, it's relatively simple. So this is something I put together for a little staff conference we had, just to kind of illustrate to staff there, how we'd been operating. I mean, this is one thing. We record all our sessions now, and we were doing this before lockdown, so. You can see here we're having a second year meeting about what's happening next year with COVID. Yeah? So you have regular team meetings at the moment, which are versions of tutorials we'd have with students in class. Yeah, so we have one-to-one tutorials with students on Teams. We have any sort of group sessions and critiques on Teams. We're doing all that stuff at the moment. So you get opportunities to talk to staff about your work 3 times a week. Whether that's on campus or off, there might be a situation next year where some students are choosing to want to be working off campus for certain days. So I would predict sessions become a little bit more optional and flexible, actually where you are when you're engaging with the session. If you were wanting to come into uni to be engaging physically with what that session is, that's fine. We can facilitate that. We facilitated that in a blended learning way this year. And we did, for example, have some students in class and other students on Teams, and we put the students in Teams up on the projector screen, and we could talk to everyone together. So we can carry on doing those things in a way that some students actually want to work that way. So we can be flexible like that. This is another system we had running as well, which was Sync Sketch. This is something we brought into after some advice from our HPL staff and industry partners. So an industry standard piece of software that's being used by lots of animation companies and CG art companies working remotely. So we have students here who submit work for review to folders online, so they can submit still images, they can submit video. They can make their own folders. We know when we get notifications when things have been uploaded. Students will tag us on course Facebook groups and tell us there's some work there to go look at, and then we can jump in and open somebody's work and make notes down the side. We can leave notes on particular frames if it's an animated piece of work. This student here, Ethan, is telling us exactly what he's been doing lately. So this is a third year student towards the end of the course. So the first lockdown, kind of March time last year, students had a couple of months left to go. So a third year student like this is producing some really nice work. So we're feeding back on final kind of tweaks and things to improve and stuff. So we can do that as written notes. We can draw over things. Yeah, we can do a simple little sketch on something. We can say, oh, just splay these out a little bit. Will look cooler if you do that, I think. All that kind of art direction stuff that you'll get in a professional studio that we do with our students all the time. Here, I could tell this student he needs to do something with this castle. You can also do this eyedropper, so I can draw on top of his work. So here I'm drawing in extra bits of snow because what the student has done is made the crystals jump out of the snow a little bit. I'm kind of saying, in the real world there'd be snow piling down behind this. It would look more convincing, more believable if you pile a bit of snow up. Yeah, so there the student can hide what we've drawn on top by this visibility thing. They can look at the original thing, they can look at the comments, they can look at what notes we put on stuff. We can also do this with animation. So here's an example of a student who's produced this cat, panther creature kind of jumping across, grabbing hold of this rope, and I'm going through here kind of drawing on the screen, noting down poses that are kind of like, this one's happy but the next one's a bit dodgy, you need to curl these fingers over more. So frame 38, you can see that note, and you can also see a little sketch for it. Yeah, so students can easily find what note we made and what we meant by it and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that have happened that have heightened our, like we didn't have that before, so we would talk to students about their work, but this option as well of being able to draw directly on their work, and for students to be able to engage with us remotely, without necessarily coming to campus, there's a bonus to that we'll be looking to carry forward. This is another one as well. So remote desktoping is something we got into this year as well. So as well as students being able to have access to software on their own IT at home, this is a system where students can go into via the uni website, can go and look in one of our studios. And on this system, there's a quicker way of doing this now. There's an improved system for doing this. They can find a computer that's free. This is the kind of lab, it's set up like that. They can find a spare computer. They can then go and log on to that computer. This is now a university desktop. So this is me from my laptop at home connecting with the desktop in university. This is one of the numbered machines in the university in our studios. Now we have all our software that we would normally use. So Maya we use a lot, and this is me now operating Maya in university from my laptop at home. So all students had access to that during lockdown, and again it'd be one of the things that we're really keen to not just continue with but improve upon. We're looking at the minute looking at all kinds of cloud computing solutions for access to software, but also things like network rendering, cloud-based rendering, all that kind of stuff. We're looking into that kind of thing in a way more sort of focused way than perhaps we were before. In a way that it's one of the silver linings of lockdown. Really, is that whole the benefits of being able to work remotely has been really interesting. In terms of facilities. Current specs of PCs are very good. They're really strong. In recent years, we've been talking to the university a lot about the necessity to have really good IT spec in our subject area, and they've listened. So they're some of the highest PC specs that we've ever had. Where some of these machines are near kind of a renewal stage now. But when we ask our students, like who's got higher than the 32 gig RAM PC, not many hands go up. Who's got a card better than this? Not many hands go up, so there's still, we bought such a high spec about 4 years ago that there's still quite high spec now. You have all software subscriptions that you need for all the software that you need access to in university. So either via going to university and using those PCs or dialing in remotely, you can get access to all these different pieces of software. A number of these become available to you as a student on your own IT as well. Some are a little more difficult to get your hands on, but in uni and via our remote desktop system, we have access to all of those.
Over the last few years now, we've been very lucky that we've invested in some motion capture systems. So what we've got here, as you can see in the top two pictures, is our 18 camera Vicon setup. So we've got a dedicated room, which is just next to it's in between actually of the two studios that we've got on the campus. It's dedicated just to motion capture. So we've got 18 cameras, which is a very high-end industry kind of sort of mirrored setup. And this is good for really capturing high-end motion capture performance. So, you know, by this point, you should all know that motion capture is then, you know, the study of human motion. So for acting and performances. And so this setup is really fantastic for group work as well. So you could be yourself in the suit, capturing your own motion. So it could be acting or dancing or jumping around or running. Or it could be, I think it can capture up to 4 people in a hit as well. So that's fantastic. So we've got plenty of suits. But again, it started to get more about our second years and third years, starting to analyze motion capture data, because a lot of industry now are using motion capture for games, even for film, for TV now. It's really bleeding into all aspects of the animation industry. So it's not just games, which it used to be. It's starting to become very recognized within the industry. So you know, as students on the course, you'd get opportunities to play with this 18 camera motion capture setup, which is, you know, as you can see, it's really high-end, state-of-the-art technology here. We've also got the XSense suits as well, which is our more mobile motion capture setup, which is then using a laptop, using some motion sensors strapped to your body. You don't need to be in a Lycra suit like Albert is there. You can be anywhere on campus or anywhere within the network or Wi-Fi setup. So if you need bigger space than this studio offers, then we've got another alternative for you to allow this. And then this is Albert, who I think we talked about, who did the C3PO film. This is his slight little sort of development diary of him filming himself recording for the C3PO film, because he took full advantage of this 18 camera setup, our Vicom suite, and filmed himself acting to C3PO. So he made himself a little body rig, almost kind of with his arms, to keep his arms locked in place, and did some other elements, like the guy running, or the person running with a banana, which is obviously a guy running with a gun, and used this setup then to hand over to the animator, which then attached it to the rig and to the mesh, and then the animator then cleaned up and then was able to put into the film as a fully workable C3PO character, which was fantastic, which was all part of like of Albert being sort of part of an industry recognized process and pipeline.
And I'm so excited to show you the props.
So we see that in this as well, a running machine, yeah, so, and a kind of a reference wall, a grid wall, a MyBridge grid kind of wall. So as well as mocap, a crash mat, yeah, so students will use that room for kind of acting out, filming themselves, doing walk cycles and run cycles and stuff, you know, so it's like a video capture, kind of mocap suite, kind of acting room, it's all that kind of performance-y stuff. This is a little reel as well of just the different aspects. So we showed Albert's film before the 3PO film, just again of how he brought mocap into the film and other things. You can see him, he was really interested in lots of different aspects in the more kind of technical side of things, and combining them together with his very strong art skills in a way that's like pushing lots of different areas of technology. So it's great when people get involved with the facilities like this and really make use of all the stuff we've got there. So Albert's working in a studio in Madrid at the moment, and he's been on set a lot. He's kind of working in a VFX company, but he's involved in, interestingly, he's involved in areas nowadays where they're working with kind of virtual production, LED volumes. You know, if you've watched The Mandalorian, how The Mandalorian was shot, you know, on a stage underneath a dome that's full of little LED lights that you essentially are kind of showing, screening, projecting the 3D CG scene in Unreal Engine, which is a game engine, but you're projecting something which is going forward to being a very filmic Star Wars TV series. So Albert's working with those kind of technologies, and you can kind of feel his different interests here. You can feel his artistic skills, you know. I mean, it's a student who could have gone on as a modeling texturing artist, but then is the kind of person that when he sees a bunch of opportunities around him to get involved with other techniques, other bits of software, you know, and other equipment and other hardware, he's going to kind of go off and explore some of that stuff as well. really building up a very interesting set of skills across the whole thing.
As you know, as we talk about the local industry visits that we have in Cardiff, we also go to the capital, to London, to also see some of the bigger companies, especially the companies that a lot of our alumni and ex-grads are actually working in. It's always a really quite fun trip. And again, it's to dispel that myth that industry is a very big, scary place. Because for 3 years, you're just thinking industry. So this is an opportunity to actually see what those companies look like. So a lot of these companies that students may already know they want to work for. So this is a fantastic opportunity for students to then explore and ask questions and network at these companies. So some of the trips we've been to, some of the visits we've been to are to ILM, so Industrial Light and Magic, who worked on the Solo films and Ready Player One. Blue Zoo, which we showed earlier, the kids TV. We go to Frame Store and Double Neg. They're big visual effects post-production companies. Then we also go to the commercial houses then as well. So we've been to the Mill and Untold. So also while we're there, we take advantage of meeting up with those graduates and alumni that we were talking about that are working at these companies. So what we'll do is I'll get in touch with them, because we stay in touch with, they're all friends of the course. And we make a bit of, we call it a networking social night. So it's going to the pub really and having a few drinks. And it's because it's a third year, so the third year cohort get to mix and meet with studios. In the top picture there, that's Ruben. That was him in his third year talking to Suvi, who was at that time working for ILM as an animator. Now Ruben is in industry, and he's in Blue Zoo. So if hopefully when we run the trip again next year, Ruben will be the person I'll pull in. And again, a host of number of ex-grads who will then be meeting next year's third year and offer advice and feedback. And again, it's just a nice way to show that industry is actually a great place and it's not scary, and how they got there, and interview tips and techniques and things like that. So it's a really, really fantastic opportunity to sort of almost touch industry, and see what it looks like, and project themselves for the next few months of where they want to aim for.
Cool. As well as visits to, so we talked about visits to local companies, we talked about visits to companies in London that we usually do. Obviously during pandemic we haven't been able to do the physical visits, but we have converted those successfully into online visits as well. So we've had visits from those companies to the students in a kind of an online webinar based version of the physical ones we would have done. We also do some trips to CG conferences and animation and CG conferences through the year. So there's one that we just went to a week or so ago, the Vertex conference that we normally go to every year in London. And then this is our big kind of field trip that usually happens, that this year won't be. Sadly, last year we just missed out on. When the pandemic started, we had to kind of cancel this. It wasn't going ahead. But I've been to this every year. I've just missed my 10-year streak, so I've been to it every year for the last 9 years, with growing groups of students each time. Regularly we take about 30 students from the second and the third year of computer animation, plus VFX students. So we often go on a kind of coach load of 50 students to this altogether. And what it is, FMX is the biggest animation, VFX and games conference in Europe. It's the third biggest in the world. It's dwarfed only by SIGGRAPH in America, which is the biggest one in the world, and SIGGRAPH in Asia. So you get visitors to this from throughout the world. You get to see the coolest breakdowns and examples and talks of the best films and games and VFX sequences and commercials that happened usually in the previous year. Some things, we've even seen things in this that like aren't released yet or just came out that week, and you get sneak peeks and stuff, right? It's absolutely amazing. It's almost like royalty of speakers. The number of speakers I've seen over the years has been absolutely crazy. The quality I've seen has been absolutely crazy from all the big studios, all the big companies. If you're thinking of things like Pixar, Disney, DreamWorks, ILM, Weta, I've seen talks from all of those companies over the years multiple times at an event like this. So it's a massive eye-opener for students to go along to things at this kind of level. It's absolutely incredible. FMX is great as well. It kind of takes over the town of Stuttgart in Germany. Also alongside that, they happen to have a be a festival like an Oktoberfest. They have a Spring Fest, so we pop along to that as well to see what's going on there. So it's a social event and a work event as well. They also have, as well as all the big talks, they also have an exhibition floor of lots of interesting new kind of technology and things you can look at on a kind of trade floor. There's also a recruiting floor where it's actually easier to meet studios based in London, in Stuttgart every year, than it is to go to all these different studios in London, because they all book some space on the recruiting floor, and students can then book slots to go and talk to recruiters. We also exhibit here, so here's me and Phil and our colleague Garrett from the VFX course. We exhibited on the school's exhibition area, as a school, kind of promoting itself to the conference attendees. And even we get into situations like this, as well as all those kind of networking opportunities that students can have. Here again, in a similar way to Phil talking about the evening meetup in the London trip, this is a group of current second and third year computer animation students meeting with a former computer animation student who's now running his own company, actually based in Czech Republic, who's visiting the event in Germany, and we're kind of arranging a meetup there, networking. They're talking about employment opportunities at his company. So there's all those kind of interesting circular opportunities that keep coming around. So usually we'd say this on open day, what are we looking for from you guys? I mean, I think we're talking here to people we've made offers to, so it's a little bit different. One thing we would just point out as well is if there's any kind of concern around drawing skills, we're talking to people early enough that perhaps we can have a little focus on that. So these are some examples from our life drawing module. These are some examples from kind of outdoor drawing sessions as part of visual studies, and character design work. So as we've said, drawing and design is a chunk of what we do. We have this philosophy that the better you are at this kind of stuff, the stronger the CG work becomes. It's ultimately an artistic medium. We want to take those good, strong artistic drawing skills and convert those into strong CG skills. We found that converts across to both art and animation, that the one thing supports the other. So if there are any kind of issues around drawing skills, you have time to perhaps work into those a little bit before you join us on the course. And if if there's any kind of wonderings about that, like would it be worth spending a bit of time drawing to kind of improve that stuff? Yeah, absolutely. The more you do of that kind of thing before you come to us, generally the better your course experience will go. Some students will look at things another way, that they'll try and sort of develop CG skills before they come to us, and have a whole focus on developing software skills and awarenesses of Blender or Maya, or lots of sculpting stuff, or they've been starting animating, and that's interesting. That's a good sort of addition to a suite of experience that you might have, but providing that's with a level of artistic drawing skill, we would say, right? Really what we're looking for is people who come into us as artists first. What gets tricky is if we get somebody who knows some of the software but doesn't have the artistic skills. That's when things get a little tricky for us. If you're looking to come to us on the other way around, that you have the artistic skills and you want to come to us to learn all the CG stuff, brilliant. That's our stock in trade. That's what we do all the time. Yeah. What's going to be great as well is to kind of keep in touch with us. Yeah. So best place to go and find any of the stuff that we've been talking about today is via our social media channels, uni website. You can also see, so I'll just pull the website up here. The next slide says also Vimeo, also YouTube channels and all that kind of stuff. From the uni website, it's the best go-to to click through to all that stuff, because you have it here. We've got the uni to stick it on the bottom of our description. So you can go to the YouTube channel, the Vimeo channel. You can go look at the graduate showcase website in here. So this is like all the graduates from last year and the year before that and the year before that. You can go and look at individual work and show reels there. What I think is really interesting to kind of see more of our stuff is to go to the YouTube channel, because in the YouTube channel we can categorize things into these kind of mini sort of chapters of content Yeah, so you can see lots of information about the course. You can see examples of projects. Yeah, types of projects we do. You can see more about the first year. There's a whole stack now, I notice, of first year projects you can go kind of wandering through over the years. And other, if there's something that was of particular interest to you, you want to look at artists, showreels, you really know you want to be an animator, you want to focus on that, you can do that. So we stack all this up in kind of relevant sort of short films, if that's something you're really into. If you want to see more about VFX projects we've been involved with over the years, or games collaborations with the games art and design course at the university, you can go kind of trolling through all that stuff to your heart's content. Okay, so thanks for dropping by. Good to chat to you about all that stuff. And if there are any questions, you can always drop us a line by the website. We're more than happy to arrange any kind of video chat with anyone who wants to take things further. Nice one. Thanks for coming by, everyone.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks very much.